Greetings, everybody. Welcome to your video series on an introduction to sociology. The topic for this video, the scientific research model. Let's get started. The scientific research model basically has 6 steps that all scientists follow, whether you are a chemist or a biologist or a physicist or a social scientist like a sociologist, an anthropologist, or a psychologist. What are these steps? Step 1, all research really begins with a question. Why is this happening? How is this happening? Where is it happening? What is happening? Who is it happening to? When is it happening? Everything we search and research in sociology really does begin with a simple question. The second step is we do what many of you know as a literature review, or we research existing sources. This is where you go to the library or you go online into a library's resources and you get into those academic journals and type in your keywords, and it brings up this whole list of articles that are often hard to read and understand, but nonetheless have a lot of helpful information about what has already been studied and concluded about your question or your topic. So we like to do a literature review and to research what all has been found out and learned about our topic. So we're not duplicating efforts, we're just building on existing knowledge. Then step 3 is formulating our hypothesis. Most of you, if not all of you, have formed a hypothesis at some point in your life, even if it's been a high school research paper that you did or a college paper for your English class or psychology class. And what is a hypothesis? A hypothesis is your hunch. It's your educated guess about what you think is going on. It is the answer basically to your question in step 1. Hypotheses are basically a prediction of the relationship between 2 or more variables. And to keep this simple, we're just going to look at a hypothesis with 2 variables. All hypotheses have independent variables and dependent variables. The independent variable is really the cause that you're looking at. The dependent variable is the effect that you're studying. So if A happens, what happens to B, right? So let's look at an example. Let's say our hypothesis, we are hypothesizing that a lack of appropriate sleep in students will lead to an increase in cheating on exams. Now, this may be somewhat of an obvious thing. If students are sleep deprived, they're not going to be on their best A game. But let's just assume this is a hypothesis that we do not know the answer to yet. We're interested in researching and studying it more. So as you look at this, can you identify the independent variable, the cause, and the dependent variable, the effect? What is causing what to happen? When we study human behavior in sociology, we're always looking at the relationship between various variables. When somebody does something, what is going to happen as a result of that? So in this case, if students aren't getting enough sleep, what's likely to happen? Well, we're hypothesizing they might be more likely to cheat on their exam. So in this hypothesis, our independent variable, the cause, is our lack of sleep. The dependent variable, the effect, what's happening as a result of that lack of sleep, is we're more likely to be cheating on our exam, on our tests, in order to pass, get good grades, pass the class, graduate. We weren't able to do that through the typical acceptable means of getting a good night's sleep. So we're choosing to cheat because we are sleep deprived, is what our hypothesis is saying. Again, we don't know if that's true. We would have to go out and research that just to make sure. Then step 4 is the design of the study itself. How are you going to go about affirming or disproving your hypothesis? There are basically three main ways that social scientists go about doing their research. The most common and probably cost-effective way is to do a survey. And all of you have done surveys throughout your life. You do surveys every semester in college when you complete a class. You get that form online that asks you various questions about your class experience and the teacher that you had for that particular class. Surveys are very common. They can give us a lot of good information. They're not always completely honest on surveys, are we? But nonetheless, if they're anonymous and nobody can track our name and our answers, we tend to be pretty honest on those. Experiments are also common, a little bit more complicated and expensive to do, but really helpful. And what is an experiment? When we have two different groups of people or multiple groups of people, and we do something to one group of people that we don't do to the other group, and we compare their responses. We look at their behavior. How did group A, when we did whatever we did to them, how did they behave? And then we look at group B without that intervention, and how are they behaving, and what are the differences between those two groups. And then lastly, we can engage in participant observation or ethnography if you are in the anthropology field. And this is basically where we go out and we become a member of whatever group we're interested in learning more about, hence the term participant. We participate with that group and we observe their behaviors and we draw conclusions based on what we are observing. Participant observation can be a bit more subjective than surveys and experiments, but nonetheless, participant observation, if we are focused on objective observing, we can get some really good information about the group of people we're studying. So then once we do either the survey, the experiment, the participant observation, or a combination of all three, we draw our conclusions, right? And we look at our evidence and we try to figure out, did we affirm our hypothesis? Does a lack of sleep cause cheating on exams? We might have surveyed a group of students with questions about how much sleep they're getting, what time they go to bed, what time they wake up, how much time they're able to study. We may do an experiment in this case where we provide one group of students with a good 8 hours of sleep. We deprive another group of that sleep. We compare their test results or their behavior when they're taking a test. And if our evidence says, yeah, it looks like the lack of sleep is causing students to cheat, we have affirmed our hypothesis. If, on the other hand, we look at our evidence and we say, we cannot make a causation here, there doesn't seem to be a factor in terms of sleep. We have students who were sleep deprived, who did not cheat, got good grades. We have students who got a good night's sleep, cheated anyway to get a good grade. Then we have disproved our hypothesis. You'll notice the terms affirm and disprove. In science, we're not really out to prove anything. We do affirm hypotheses and we disprove a lot, which ultimately drives us closer to the truth. And then step 6 is reporting our results. Who's going to be interested in this information? Who's going to benefit from our research? What kind of change are we hoping to create by this research? Hopefully the topic that we've chosen, the question that we're asking, is of interest to more people than just us. And by undergoing this research, we are hoping to create or bring about some kind of positive change in our society. In the case of our hypothesis, if in fact we are able to affirm that a lack of sleep will lead to an increase in cheating, then we would want to undertake the steps necessary to help students better understand the importance of a good night's sleep. So that's going to do it for now. Thanks for checking in. Never stop learning, and remember, sociology